You are going to need the jar that you were given. It has that vegetable oil and blue food coloring in it. Now remember, this is very, very messy, so you want to be careful handling this, okay? You got the bag of sand and the sea creature. We'll talk about whether you want to use that or not. That's up to you. I went ahead and bought Crazy Glue because I really want to seal up my jar and make sure it's really nice and sealed, so when I play with it I don't have to worry about leaking. I've got rubbing alcohol and paper towel. You definitely are going to want to wipe around the top of the jar before you try to Crazy Glue it. So at the very least a paper towel. I'm going to clean it with rubbing alcohol just to make sure that Crazy Glue gets really good and sealed. And then about a cup of water we're going to use. So let's get going and find out how to make this cool jar. Okay, so we're gonna make this wave jar. Now you see I've got a tray here. This just happens to be a plastic tray that we have. A cookie sheet or something, like a baking dish would work well because I want to contain the mess. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take the lid off this jar, okay? And again, we want to be careful because oil and food coloring can be really messy. So you can see there's some oil around the edge of the lid and stuff. This one didn't leak that much, so that's a good thing. But I'm still going to take, and this would be a good thing to have an adult do, is wipe around the top of the jar, just the top and the outside, to make sure that there's no residue. And again, this is just for later, so when we glue it shut, it glues shut really well. And then I'm going to wipe the inside of the lid too. Make sure all that white rubber where the top of the jar is going to hit is clean, and then also the threads around the edges of this lid are really nice and clean. Okay, now we're ready to go. So I'm in this jar not actually going to use the sand. I'm going to try it without it. I've got an example with the sand that you can see, and you can decide whether you want to use your sand or not. And I'll tell you why when we kind of demo the other one. The little sea creature, you can take that out. You can do whatever you want with it. It doesn't show up in the jar, unfortunately, that well. So you've got a new bath toy, or maybe you can think of a new science experiment to use this guy for. Okay, but I'm in this one going to try it without the sand and see how it works, and I'll show you how the one with the sand looks, and you guys can decide whether you like the sand or not. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to add water, and I want to add water very nearly up to the top. So if I wanted to add my sand, I would have added it first. But again, I'm going to try this one without and see how it comes out, and then you guys can decide. So you might want to fill up to as close as you can, and then maybe have an adult put just a little bit more in. Okay? Now, I want to take my Crazy Glue. Whoop! I'm going to open it. And I am going to put it all around on that white seal on the lid. All around here where we know the top of that jar hits. And all around some of these threads. And really, I don't think you can do too much. I know for a fact that these jars easily unseal when they when you play with them, so I don't want this spilling at all. So Crazy Glue, Crazy Glue, Crazy Glue. But again, you want an adult to do that, because if Crazy Glue gets on your fingers, you can glue yourself to things. Okay, I'm gonna put that lid on nice and tight. And I'm gonna let it sit for about 5 minutes just to make sure, again, that that Crazy Glue is fully cured and holding, okay? Okay, so here we have our jars. They're all done. The lids are nicely sealed, and then you can turn them over and play with them. So this is the one we just made without the sand. And you can see, you can roll it around and you can see the waves in there. Play with it that way a little bit and see how the waves bounce back and forth. And then sit it down and it will re-separate and go back to being normal. This is the one that we put the sand in. And again, it's a matter of personal preference. You can see the sand had some fine dust that mixed in with the oil, so it made the oil just a little cloudy, a little more like a stormy day at the beach, I guess. And you can play with it, and you can see the sand down here will mix up, and then it'll come kind of falling back down. It doesn't show really well on this video, but when you have your own jar, you can play with it and watch that sand mix up, and then set it down and watch the sand settle back out. Okay, so we've got our ocean layer here, and then the oil represents the air above the ocean. So water surface is right here. And you can also imagine erosion with the one with the sand, because the sand gets picked up by the waves and pummeled around. The waves are very, very, very powerful. So it picks up the sand, pummels it around a bit, grinds it up, and then it goes ahead and settles back down as the wave kind of washes back out to sea. And almost before it settles down, another wave will come and pick it up again and make it cloudy again, and then settle back down. So on both of these, you can almost imagine a seagull coming into land or something on the ocean waves. So personally, I like this jar. I like the clear. I know other people really like this jar and the cloudy, and thought I gave a lot of personality to the jar. It's entirely up to you whether you want to see the sand rocking around. And again, it's caused by the fine dust, so you might be able to, much like you would rinse your rice, try to rinse your sand a little bit before you put it in the jar and see what effect that has. Okay, so that is your ocean beach jar. Enjoy playing with it.